Picture yourself walking into a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning, and you overhear two people at the next table having a conversation that stops you dead in your tracks. One person, who looks to be in their early 40s, is casually mentioning how they just hit their first million in investments. The other person, clearly frustrated, responds with something like, "How is that even possible? I make decent money, but I feel like I'm always broke." Sound familiar? Maybe you've been that second person, wondering how some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while you're stuck in the same financial patterns month after month. Here's something that might surprise you. The difference between people who build serious wealth by 40 and those who don't has almost nothing to do with how much money they make. I've seen people earning six figures who are completely broke, and I've watched folks making $40,000 a year accumulate hundreds of thousands in assets. The real difference comes down to 7 specific money habits that wealthy people develop early and stick to religiously. If you're someone who's tired of feeling behind with money and you actually want to understand the mechanics of building real wealth, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps clarify things for you. Now, before we dive into these 7 habits, let me be completely honest about something. Most people will watch this entire video, feel motivated for about 20 minutes, then go right back to their old financial patterns without changing a single thing. They'll bookmark this video, save it to a playlist, and never implement any of the strategies I'm about to share. Don't be those people, because what I'm about to show you isn't some get-rich-quick scheme or complicated investment theory that requires a finance degree to understand. These are simple, proven habits that anyone can implement starting today. The first habit that separates wealth builders from everyone else is something I call emergency fund obsession. Most people think emergency funds are boring, and honestly, they're right. There's nothing exciting about having money sitting in a savings account earning modest interest. But here's what most people don't understand. Your emergency fund isn't really about the emergencies. It's about the psychological transformation that happens when you know you can handle whatever life throws at you. When you don't have any money saved, every financial decision feels dangerous. Taking a new job becomes terrifying because you need that steady paycheck. Asking for a raise feels impossible because you can't afford to risk your current position. Moving to a better apartment seems out of reach because you don't have money for deposits and moving costs. You're essentially trapped by your lack of savings, making decisions based on fear instead of opportunity. But something remarkable happens when you build up 3 to 6 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. Suddenly, these same decisions feel manageable. You're not necessarily going to quit your job tomorrow and become a professional street performer, but you might finally have the confidence to negotiate that salary increase you've been thinking about for months. You might be willing to invest in yourself by taking a course that could boost your earning potential. Here's the part that will probably surprise you. Most people who successfully build emergency funds never actually spend them on emergencies. Instead, they spend them on opportunities. They invest in education, start businesses, move to better locations, or simply have the mental bandwidth to focus on increasing their income because they're not constantly worried about basic survival. Let me give you a real example of how this works. Consider someone in their early 40s earning $75,000 annually. After taxes, they're taking home about $4,700 each month. If their essential expenses, including housing, utilities, food, and minimum debt payments total around $2,700 monthly, they need an emergency fund between $8,000 and $16,000. That might sound like an impossible amount to save, especially if you're currently living paycheck to paycheck. But here's the thing about emergency funds that financial advisors don't always emphasize. You don't need to save the entire amount before you start feeling the benefits. Even having $2,000 saved creates a massive psychological shift because it moves you out of pure survival mode. The key is making emergency fund building automatic. Open a high-yield savings account that earns at least 4% annual interest. Set up an automatic transfer that moves money there the day after your paycheck arrives. Start with whatever amount you can manage, even if it's just $50 per month. The goal isn't the specific amount initially, it's proving to yourself that you're the kind of person who saves consistently. Here's where most people mess this up completely. They think their emergency fund needs to be earning amazing returns, so they invest it in risky assets or lock it up in accounts they can't access quickly. Then when an actual emergency happens, their money is either worth less than when they put it in, or they can't get to it without paying penalties. Your emergency fund should be liquid and boring. Put it in a high-yield savings account that's insured by the government and call it a day. The second wealth-building habit is something I call retirement contribution maximization. And this is where things start getting really exciting. Your 40s are the years when you need to contribute the maximum amount allowed to retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs. This isn't just about taking advantage of tax benefits, though those benefits are substantial. It's about leveraging compound interest during the most critical decade of your wealth-building journey. Here's something that will blow your mind about retirement account contributions. If your employer offers any kind of matching contribution, not taking full advantage is literally like turning down free money. Let's say your company matches 3% of your salary and you make $60,000 per year. That means if you contribute $1,800 annually to your retirement account, your employer will also contribute $1,800. You just doubled your money instantly. But the real magic happens when you understand the tax advantages these accounts provide. Traditional 401k contributions are tax deductible, meaning every dollar you contribute reduces your taxable income by $1. If you're in the 22% tax bracket and you contribute the maximum $23,500 to your 401k, you'll save over $5,000 in taxes that year alone. Roth accounts work differently but offer their own incredible advantages. With Roth contributions, you pay taxes on the money now, but all future growth and withdrawals are completely tax-free. It's like planting a tree today and never having to pay taxes on the fruit it produces for the rest of your life. The contribution limits for these accounts change annually, but the concept remains the same. You're investing money in tax-advantaged accounts that allow your wealth to compound more efficiently over time. Once you hit 50, the IRS allows catch-up contributions that exceed standard limits, giving you even more opportunities to accelerate your wealth building. Here's where people in their 40s have a unique advantage. You're typically earning more than you did in your 20s and 30s, but you still have 20 to 25 years until retirement. This combination of higher earning potential and substantial time for compound growth makes your 40s the most critical decade for retirement savings. The third habit that wealthy people develop is strategic debt elimination. And this is where the math becomes absolutely compelling. Eliminating high-interest debt should be a priority during your 40s, because every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar that can't be invested for your future. When you pay off debt, you're getting a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate you were paying. Consider credit card debt charging 20% interest. When you pay off that debt, you're effectively earning a risk-free, tax-free return of 20%. Compare that to stock market returns, which average 7 to 10% annually, and paying off high-interest debt becomes a no-brainer investment strategy. The psychological benefits of debt elimination are just as important as the mathematical ones. When you're carrying debt, especially high-interest debt, it affects every financial decision you make. You're constantly calculating whether you can afford things, and that mental energy could be better spent on wealth-building activities. Here's the strategy that works consistently for debt elimination. List every debt you owe money on, including credit cards, student loans, car payments, and personal loans. Next to each debt, write down the interest rate and minimum monthly payment. Then choose between two proven approaches. The avalanche method focuses on paying off debts with the highest interest rates first, which saves you the most money mathematically. The snowball method targets your smallest debts first, which isn't the most financially optimal approach but can be incredibly motivating because you see debts disappearing quickly. I personally prefer the snowball method because personal finance is more about psychology than mathematics. If paying off your smallest debt first keeps you motivated to continue the process, then that's the right strategy for you, even if it costs you a few extra dollars in interest. The key is picking one method and sticking with it until all your non-mortgage debt is gone. The fourth wealth-building habit is something most people completely ignore, and it might be the most important one on this entire list. It's called lifestyle inflation resistance. When you get a raise, a bonus, or any increase in income, your brain immediately starts calculating all the ways you can spend that extra money. Maybe you deserve a new car since you've been so responsible. Perhaps it's time to upgrade to a bigger apartment or take that expensive vacation you've been dreaming about. This is exactly how people earning six-figure salaries end up living paycheck to paycheck. Every time their income increases, their expenses increase proportionally or even faster. They're essentially running on a financial treadmill, working harder and earning more, but never actually getting ahead because their spending keeps pace with their earnings. Wealthy people do something completely different. When they receive additional income, they immediately allocate a significant portion of it toward wealth-building activities before they even think about lifestyle upgrades. They understand that every dollar they spend on lifestyle inflation today is potentially several dollars they won't have in retirement. Here's a practical example of how this works. Let's say you receive a $5,000 raise. Instead of letting your monthly expenses increase by $400, you might allow yourself to upgrade your lifestyle by $150 monthly while directing the remaining $250 toward investments. Over 20 years, that extra $250 per month invested at 8% annual returns becomes over $140,000. The key is being intentional about lifestyle decisions rather than letting them happen automatically. Before making any significant spending increase, ask yourself whether this purchase moves you closer to or further from your financial goals. That doesn't mean you should never enjoy the fruits of your labor, but it means making conscious choices about where your money goes. The fifth habit that separates wealth builders from everyone else is investment diversification mastery. This isn't about creating some complex portfolio that requires constant monitoring. It's about understanding that you don't want to put all your financial eggs in one basket, even if that basket has performed well historically. When constructing your investment portfolio, you want exposure to different asset classes that don't all move in the same direction at the same time. This might include domestic stocks, international stocks, bonds, real estate investment trusts, and even alternative investments depending on your risk tolerance and investment timeline. The beauty of diversification is that it allows you to participate in market growth while protecting yourself from sector-specific downturns. While individual stocks can go to zero, a diversified portfolio of index funds has historically recovered from every market crash and continued growing over time periods longer than 10 years. For most people in their 40s, a simple 3-fund portfolio works incredibly well. This might consist of a total stock market index fund, an international stock index fund, and a bond index fund. The specific allocation depends on your risk tolerance, but a common approach is to subtract your age from 100 to determine your stock allocation. A 40-year-old might have 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds, gradually shifting toward more conservative allocations as retirement approaches. The sixth wealth-building habit is multiple income stream development, and this is where things get really interesting. Your 40s are typically your prime earning years, which means you have more financial flexibility to explore additional income sources without jeopardizing your primary career. The goal isn't necessarily to work more hours, though that might be part of the strategy initially. It's about creating income sources that can eventually generate money without requiring your direct time and attention. This might include rental real estate, dividend-paying investments, creating digital products, or building businesses that can operate with minimal ongoing involvement. Real estate investment trusts, or REITs, offer a way to participate in real estate markets without the headaches of being a landlord. These companies own and operate income-generating real estate, and they're required to distribute most of their profits to shareholders as dividends. If you have skills or knowledge that others would pay to learn, creating online courses or consulting services can generate substantial additional income. The initial time investment is significant, but once created, these products can continue generating revenue with minimal ongoing effort. High-yield savings accounts and certificates of deposit provide guaranteed returns, though typically lower than stock market investments. Series on savings bonds, which are inflation-protected government securities, can be particularly attractive during periods of high inflation. The key to building wealth through multiple income streams is systematically reinvesting earnings rather than allowing lifestyle inflation to consume additional income sources. Every extra dollar you earn should have a predetermined destination, whether that's debt payoff, emergency fund building, or investment account contributions. The seventh and final habit is tax optimization strategic planning, and this might be the most overlooked wealth-building opportunity available to people in their 40s. Every dollar that taxes take away is a dollar that cannot be used to build your wealth, which is why it's crucial to take advantage of every legal opportunity to minimize your tax burden. Tax-advantaged accounts like traditional and Roth IRAs, 401ks, and health savings accounts offer different types of tax benefits. Traditional accounts provide immediate tax deductions but require you to pay taxes on withdrawals in retirement. Roth accounts require you to pay taxes up front but offer tax-free growth and withdrawals. Health savings accounts provide triple tax benefits with deductible contributions, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. Understanding which accounts to prioritize based on your current tax situation and expected retirement tax bracket can save you thousands of dollars annually. If you expect to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, traditional accounts might make more sense. If you expect higher taxes in retirement, Roth accounts could be more beneficial. Tax loss harvesting and taxable investment accounts allows you to offset capital gains with capital losses, reducing your overall tax liability. This strategy becomes more valuable as your investment accounts grow larger and generate more taxable income. The complexity of tax optimization increases significantly as your wealth grows, which is why working with a qualified tax professional becomes increasingly valuable. The money you spend on professional tax advice often pays for itself many times over through the strategies and opportunities they identify. But here's where most people completely mess up their tax strategy, and it's costing them a fortune without them even realizing it. They treat tax planning like something they only think about once a year when they're scrambling to file their returns. Meanwhile, wealthy people are making tax-optimized decisions every single month, and those decisions compound over decades into massive wealth advantages. Let me give you a real example that demonstrates the power of strategic tax planning. Consider two families, both earning $120,000 annually. The first family, let's call them the Johnsons, takes the standard approach to taxes. They contribute enough to their 401k to get their employer match, file their taxes once a year, and call it good. The second family, the Thompsons, implements a comprehensive tax optimization strategy. The Thompsons maximize both spouses' 4,100k contributions, saving over $6,000 annually in federal taxes alone. They open health savings accounts and contribute the family maximum, providing another $2,100 in tax savings while building a stealth retirement account. For their children's education, they contribute to 529 plans, qualifying for state tax credits. Most significantly, they implement Roth conversion strategies during lower income years, positioning themselves for tax-free retirement income. After 20 years, the difference between these two families isn't just the money they saved on taxes. It's the compounding effect of having those extra tax savings invested and growing. The Thompsons' strategic tax planning results in hundreds of thousands of additional wealth, demonstrating how tax optimization becomes a powerful wealth multiplier during the peak earning years of your 40s. Here's something that might shock you about how wealthy people think about taxes. They don't just try to minimize their current year tax bill. They think strategically about their lifetime tax burden and make decisions accordingly. Sometimes they'll actually choose to pay more taxes today if it means paying significantly less over their entire lifetime. Roth conversions are a perfect example of this strategic thinking. When you convert money from a traditional retirement account to a Roth account, you pay income taxes on the converted amount in the year you do the conversion. That sounds terrible until you realize that all future growth and withdrawals from that Roth account are completely tax-free. The optimal time to do Roth conversions is during years when your income is temporarily lower than normal. Maybe you take unpaid family leave, experience a job transition, or have unusual business expenses that reduce your taxable income. These situations create windows of opportunity to convert retirement funds at lower tax rates than you'd normally pay. Understanding the difference between tax deductions and tax credits is crucial for optimization. Tax deductions reduce your taxable income, while tax credits directly reduce the amount of tax you owe dollar for dollar. A $1,000 tax credit is worth significantly more than a $1,000 tax deduction because credits provide direct savings rather than savings based on your marginal tax rate. The complexity of tax strategies increases as your wealth grows, but the fundamentals remain consistent. Every financial decision you make has tax implications, and considering those implications before making decisions rather than after can save you substantial money over time. Now here's the brutal truth that most financial advisors won't tell you about these 7 habits. Knowing about them doesn't automatically make you wealthy. I've met countless people who understand every concept I just explained, but haven't implemented a single strategy in their own lives. They're like people who read fitness books while eating pizza and wondering why they're not getting in shape. The difference between people who build wealth and people who just think about building wealth comes down to implementation and consistency. Wealthy people don't just know these habits, they automate them so they happen without requiring ongoing willpower or decision-making. Here's how automation works in practice. When your paycheck hits your account, predetermined amounts automatically flow to different buckets before you even see the money. Emergency fund contributions happen automatically. Retirement account contributions happen automatically. Investment account deposits happen automatically. Even extra debt payments can be automated. This isn't just about convenience, though automation certainly makes managing money easier. It's about removing human emotion and laziness from the wealth-building equation. You're going to have days when you feel unmotivated, stressed about work, or tempted to spend money on things you don't really need. On those days, your automated systems keep building wealth regardless of how you're feeling. Most people approach wealth building backwards. They pay all their bills, buy whatever they want, and then try to save or invest whatever's left over. Spoiler alert, there's never anything left over. Wealthy people flip this process completely. They pay themselves first through automated transfers, then live on whatever remains. The psychological impact of this approach cannot be overstated. When you see your emergency fund growing automatically every month, when your retirement accounts are increasing without you having to think about it, when your debt balances are shrinking through extra automated payments, you start feeling genuinely good about your financial future for probably the first time in years. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is something most people never experience because they give up too early. Once you've automated these 7 habits and they're running consistently for 6 to 12 months, something magical happens. You start noticing opportunities that were always there but you couldn't take advantage of before. Maybe your boss mentions a conference in another city that could be great for your career, but the company won't pay for it. Before you had your financial systems in place, you would have made excuses about why you couldn't afford to go. Now you can evaluate the potential return on investment and make a strategic decision rather than an emotional one. Perhaps a friend mentions they're starting a business and looking for investors. Without savings and a solid financial foundation, you could only wish them luck and move on. With your wealth-building systems operating automatically, you have the option to participate in opportunities that could potentially accelerate your financial progress. Your relationship with risk changes completely when you have money saved and automated systems building wealth. You're not necessarily going to become a reckless gambler, but you might finally be willing to ask for that promotion you've been thinking about for months. You might consider changing jobs for better opportunities because you're not desperately dependent on your current paycheck. This confidence often results in better job offers, higher compensation, and faster career advancement, creating a positive feedback loop that accelerates your wealth building beyond what the 7 habits accomplish on their own. The compound effect of implementing these habits during your 40s extends far beyond just the financial benefits. When you're not constantly worried about money, you sleep better at night. Your relationships improve because financial stress isn't creating tension in your household. You're more productive at work because you're not spending mental energy obsessing over your bank account balance. Here's something that might surprise you about people who successfully implement these 7 habits. They often become genuinely excited about their monthly financial reviews. Instead of dreading looking at their accounts, they look forward to seeing their progress. Watching your net worth increase month after month becomes genuinely addictive in the best possible way. The earlier you start implementing these habits, the more dramatic the results become over time. Someone who starts at age 40 and consistently follows these strategies will be in a completely different financial position at 50 compared to someone who waits until 45 to get started. Those 5 years represent tens of thousands of dollars in compound growth and opportunity cost. Your 40s represent the sweet spot for wealth building because you're typically earning more than you did in your 20s and 30s, but you still have 20 to 25 years until traditional retirement age. This combination of higher income and substantial time for compound growth makes this decade absolutely critical for your long-term financial success. The people who implement these 7 habits consistently don't just build wealth, they build options. Options to retire early if they choose. Options to take career risks because they're not financially desperate. Options to help their children with college expenses or support aging parents without jeopardizing their own financial security. These aren't just financial strategies, they're life strategies that create the foundation for genuine financial freedom. The question isn't whether these habits work, because the mathematics and real-world results prove they do. The question is whether you're going to implement them consistently or continue hoping that your financial situation will somehow improve without changing your behavior. So there you have it. 7 habits that separate people who build serious wealth by 40 from those who spend their entire lives wondering where their money disappears to each month. Emergency fund obsession, retirement contribution maximization, strategic debt elimination, lifestyle inflation resistance, investment diversification mastery, multiple income stream development, and tax optimization strategic planning. But here's the reality check you probably don't want to hear. Most people watching this video right now are going to close their laptop, feel motivated for exactly 37 minutes, then go back to checking their bank account balance obsessively while doing absolutely nothing different. They'll save this video to a playlist called Financial Stuff to Watch Later, and never actually implement a single strategy I just explained. Don't be those people. Your future self is either going to thank you for the decisions you make in the next 5 minutes or spend the next decade regretting the opportunities you let slip away. The choice between building wealth and staying financially stuck isn't made once. It's made every single day through the small decisions that either compound in your favor or work against you. The mathematics of wealth building doesn't care about your excuses, your fears, or your past mistakes. It only responds to consistent action over time. Start with one habit. Automate one transfer. Prove to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through instead of just consuming financial content like it's entertainment. Because 20 years from now, you're either going to be that person at the coffee shop casually mentioning your investment milestones, or you're going to be the one sitting across from them wondering how they made it look so effortless. The only difference is what you choose to do right now.